Good afternoon, everybody. I was just tempted to ask those three speakers to remain just so that we can get a lot more people here. I think we should have a fireside chat with the number of people that we have. But it's great to be here. I have my colleagues here as well. I've got Carl Supriwa, who is also a chief executive of Transnet Port Terminals, and some of my colleagues here were with us. So let's get straight to it because we've got a number of slides. So who is Transnet? For those of you who don't know, if we had to make an elevator speech about Transnet, we will create 288,000 jobs within the South African economy. We've already created 24,700 jobs, direct and indirect jobs in the economy. We are a reliable service provider. And in the railways, each of you have been touched by the railways. It's one of the oldest industries. It is the backbone of our economy, providing effective and efficient services. Our mission is to enable the competitiveness, growth and development of South African economy by delivering reliable freight transport handling services that satisfy customer demand. You may have heard a lot being spoken about Transnet in terms of our investments over the next 5 years. It's called the market demand strategy, and that sort of gives you a roundabout figure about the amount that we're going to spend over the next 7 years. We're already into year 3 of our market demand strategy, so that's 300 billion over the next 7 years, and that's quite a huge amount of capital that we're injecting into our infrastructure and equipment spend over the next 7 years. As you can see, and I think the Minister Shabangu made note of this, that we have to look at the long term instead of the short term, and that's precisely what we're doing. Our 7-year investment plan is region and also intra-region. We may have heard, or you may have heard, some of our government, our president, the Minister Gigaba, as well as our group chief executive, Brian Molefe, coming out in a number of forums talking about our commitment to infrastructure growth and the developmental imperatives. And that's a commitment we are making as Transnet. Just in terms of some numbers, I think, which is important to you, we're spending 7.7 billion on training. The mandate is 5%, but in Transnet we have upped that by 1, so it's 6% of our total labor bill, which is inclusive of 4.7 billion of bursaries. We operate and own 8 commercial ports and 16 cargo terminals in these ports. Our 7-year investment portfolio, making us one of the biggest freight rail companies in the world, 7 billion that is. We hire 6 new people every day, creating 223 jobs daily. And that's basically our model, where we have the freight rail, which is Transnet Freight Rail, Transnet Engineering, the division that I work for, and National Ports Authority, National Port Terminals, and Transnet Pipelines. So this is a very important slide, I would think, because it just shows our history. And the first railroad was operated in Natal in 1860. It traveled 3.2 kilometers for 5 minutes. And some of the highlights that you can see there, 1884, when gold was discovered in the Transvaal Republic, the Kimberley linked to Cape Town by rail, iron ore line as well. That was not the one that we know, but between Pretoria and Lorenzo Marks, and so forth, as you can see, right up till where we are today in 2014. But some other highlights I think requires mentioning. We built the first electric train, I think, came out, where is it? 1924, the first electric train. And we started manufacturing our own trains back in 1963. That in itself is long. But I think if you think about the cow train talks about high speed, but already in 1979 we had a coach train that traveled between Pretoria and Durban at 245 kilometers per hour in 1979. And now we've got the market demand strategy, which is reinvesting in infrastructure as well as equipment, locomotives, wagons, and coaches, etc. This is, I think, one of our highlights in terms of our heavy ore lines. The line from Session to Saldanha operates from about 13,000 meters above sea level. It's 861 kilometers of railway line, and it takes on a 342 wagon train, which is about 4 kilometers long, transporting 36,000 tons and runs 14 times a day. And just to give you an understanding, that's about, the train driver, it's a single train driver, he never gets to see the end of the wagon. So part of the train is probably accelerating and the other part is braking, so that's quite a marvel. Availability and reliability is in the single digits. World over, it's between 13 and 14 falls per million kilometers traveled. And we also get great wagon and locomotive reliability. In terms of the developmental agenda that we've been talking about, creating capability and capacity for the economy, not just for our very own narrow selfish interests of Transnet. We train about 3,000 artisans per year, just in Transnet Engineering. We have also formed partnerships with colleges, the CSIR, partnerships including universities, Innovation Hub, etc. Minister Gigaba spoke about the 175 million that we had got from the Higher Education and Training for the National Skills Fund, and there we are training 1,000 artisans more. So that contributes towards our national skills base in South Africa. If you look at what we are doing in terms of localization, this is an important program in Transnet called the Competitive Supply Development Program, CSDP. And what it tends to do is to look at how are we plowing back to triple BEE. If you look at our spend just in Transnet Engineering, and just talk about Transnet Engineering because I know the figures much better off. In TE, we have a whole program where we incubate and nourish some of our small, we call the QSEs or the EMEs. And now with the new code, we have to improve those gates as well. More than 90% of our spend in TE is around triple BEE. So that's quite a significant figure, and it's growing all the time. If you consider that our spend in Transnet Engineering is between 7 and 8 billion per year. This is just more of the same, but just to give you some kind of indication of how we go about taking through some of our supplies from an operational, tactical to strategic, targeting skills development, looking at skills incubation, empowerment, funding support, also targeting the rural locations. And part of what we bring to the table to the small businesses, our small suppliers and vendors, we've got 4,500 vendors on our database. And of that, we've got about 3,000 active vendors on our database. So we would also be instrumental in the transfer of IPs from some of the OEM companies. Looking at triple BEE, as I spoke about, we ourselves are fast on becoming a level 2 BE credited supplier ourselves, or company, going through an accreditation program. We're looking at pairing most of our supplies with international OEM companies, the likes of GE, etc. What's our value proposition and our capabilities? As you can see, that our rolling stock that we produce in our 6 factories and the maintenance that we do in our 132 depots around the country, 13,000 people. It's a cross-section of different capabilities that we have, from research and design to manufacture to assembly to rebuild, refurbishing and upgrading, as well as maintaining and repairing. Just about for every rolling stock equipment that's out there, in terms of locomotives, wagons, coaches. There's the ports as well. We do a lot of work for the ports, straddle carriers and bathtub wagons, and then all the activities that go into component building and sub-assemblies that go into the locomotives, wagons and coaches. So it's quite a diversified, widespread operation that we run. Capabilities: we build 168 new locomotives. That's 1 locomotive every 2 days. We build about 18 to 20 wagons per day, so that's quite intense. We do 392 overhauls, maintain 4,200 locos. With our GSAT partner, General Electric partner, we built 143 locomotives. That's almost 1 locomotive every 2 days, and 3 months ahead of schedule. So that was a first for GSAT and General Electric globally. So it's a world-class facility producing an equivalent world-class product anywhere in the world, right here in South Africa. Wagons: we are an original equipment manufacturer for wagons. We design new wagons, perform rebuilds, refurbish, overall, etc. So we have a capacity to build 4,000 wagons per year. Now, what makes us one of the best designed wagon builders is that we have what's called a high-speed bogie, and that reduces wheel wear significantly, and that has been the hallmark in terms of our bogie development. Port equipment: we just started with port equipment business, building new, refurbishing and repairing of ports and marine-related equipment. I talked about bathtub trailers and refurbishing straddle carriers. Coaches: we've got 3 factories in the country that build and upgrade coaches, and most of the work that we do there, we do for PRASA. We're looking at, we're quite close to becoming an OEM for coaches as well. And I think this is a good story, because what it tells us is that in South Africa we do have a capability and a capacity, and we're not far away with the cooperation and collaboration of our OEM companies. We see that we will be moving up our value chain in becoming an OEM ourselves when it comes to locomotives as well as coaches. This is just a little bit more detailed in terms of our operations, what we do, our DNA. I think the important thing here is that we have now embarked on our own research and development department, where we're looking at recruiting some of the best minds in the country. We have now sourced about 150 engineers, and we want to pair them up with the OEM companies, so we start to produce our very own African robust, rugged rolling stock, like we do for wagons. So the mining industry now, I mean, this morning we heard from the minister herself some of the challenges that have beset the mines, but the mines won't be the mines without the railways, and this is the world over. So I've been just flagged that my time is, and I don't think I'm even halfway through my presentation. So If you look at what we're doing in terms of taking on the challenges of the miners, of the mining industry, looking at infrastructure development, and there's a great deal that is coming through, not just from Transnet SOC, but also from Eskom. Minister made mention at the breakfast session 2 days ago that we are committed to spending 1 trillion over the next 5 to 7 years. Increased investment just from Transnet is over 300 billion, creating additional capacity for domestic and export mining industry, creating employment, which is obvious. Investment in skills development, that's our developmental agenda. R&D innovation for improved rail productivity. Now, I think if it wasn't for the railways, there won't be the huge mines that we have in terms of iron ore, coal, and manganese. If you look at the costs that go into this efficiency, it's probably a quarter of what it costs to travel on road. And, of course, supporting our sister company, Eskom. Just to give you some kind of indication of the competitiveness, we have increasingly made inroads in moving cargo from road to rail. We can see it all the time. And it's not from GDP, it's just moving that product from road to rail. And of course, we will still always depend on road for that last mile. So we're working hard to ensure that Transnet Freight Rail delivers reliably through all of these different types of actions and investments that we are making to make sure that we have better maintained, available and reliable rolling stock equipment. I'm not going to go through all the slides, but once again, to make sure that we've got a great value chain. Some of the stuff that we are doing for junior miners, which has become a topic for conversation, but we're looking at creating capacity and allocating capacity to junior miners, and in so doing, growing the rail volumes, establishing common user sidings, consolidation hubs to stimulate railage of junior miner commodities, exhaust efficiency opportunities that would create spare capacity, support the technical requirements. One of the innovative engineering products that we've done was with Iliteni coal mine, where we built them skiptainers. Our Africa strategy, we are moving into it quite aggressively. We've got a presence in 18 countries in Africa. This is the kind of work that we've done in Africa for Ghana, Congo, Mozambique, Namibia, Botswana, Sudan, Tanzania, and we are projecting a steady revenue up to 2023-24. So it's looking quite good. I think a lot has been spoken about how well some countries are doing in Africa. Well, I'm not going to spend much more. You've seen the figures. I think it's quite impressive that 2/3 of the funding that we've committed for our market demand strategy will go towards the rail side, and a third will be in the ports. And that gives you some kind of indication of what we are investing in. On our iron ore, we're moving up the tempo from 80 million tons to 82. We're looking at the manganese, which is moving to the port of Ngqura, Richards Bay terminal expansion, and the development of South Africa's coal mine, the Waterberg construction, etc., etc. More detail on how that is going to happen. I think there's a lot of detail here. We're looking at the tender that's coming out now for 1,064 locomotives, and we were building close to 35,000 wagons over the next 5 years. I think this will be the last slide. Just how we're supporting mining growth and expansion in Africa. Products and services, I've spoken about that. Maintenance to make sure that we've got efficiency and reliability. That further reduces the costs of the mines between digging up the product to unloading onto the ships. In between that is where we get the efficiency. Localization, looking at manufacturing. You know, we talk about the pit to port or the pit to ship strategy, but we're also looking at how do we diversify in terms of manufacturing our own products, developmental issues, etc., etc. So I know my time is up, but I'm not sure if we are allowing for questions. Well, thank you very much.